Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another tier ranking for you. I've only done one of these before. I did my tier ranking of all of the books that I read in 2023. Today I'm going to be doing a Cosmere tier ranking all of the books within the Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, or at least almost all of them, because there's a couple here that I have not read yet. Yeah. So I'm going to be ranking all of these on this here tier list, going from S tier down to D tier, and then also some of the ones that I haven't read yet, they're in that TBR tier. Obviously, for those of you who don't know how this all works, um, I just put the books that I like the most higher up, the books I like less lower up in the tiers, and by the end we'll have an actual ranking of them. And I'm doing it this way because I feel like ranking them numerically, like one after another, would be a bit too difficult. So I'm going to do it this way. Also, much like the other tier list I did, I apologize. This is on my phone, so it does not look as amazing as it might otherwise, but this is pretty much the only way I can do it. So I do apologize for that. So first things first, I'm going to get the few that I have not read yet out of the way, just so we don't have to deal with them later. So far, I have not read The Lost Metal. I have not read White Sand. And the only other one of these I haven't read yet is Secret Project 4, which is The Sunlight Man. This tier list is slightly outdated, so it only has the concept covers for all these books and not the actual covers for the books, which is fine. I know what they are anyway. But we're just going to go in the order of what they appear on here, which is not the default order. I kind of mess with things to just make it make a little more sense to me. So first, we have Elantris, which is the very first published novel by Brandon Sanderson, and it is the fifth one that I read, I believe. And I would say it is one of the lesser books for me. It's still good. I'm going to put it in C tier. It's still a good book for sure. Like it's even if I were to like rate it, it's still like a solid 7.5 out of 10, at least maybe an 8, somewhere in there. So it's still a solid book. But in the grand scheme of everything that he has done in the Cosmere, it's just not quite there for me. But I do enjoy this one. Really like some of the characters. I enjoy the plot. I enjoy the world building. It's just not as strong as many of his other books to me. Then we have The Hope of Elantris. This is one of the short stories. This I'm going to put in D tier. There's a couple of the short stories that I just wasn't really into, and this is one of them. I just didn't really. It didn't connect with me. I'm not sure why. I just didn't care. So that's going to go in D tier. Then we have The Emperor's Soul, which I really like a lot. That's going to go. It's either A tier or S tier. I'm going to put it in A tier just because for me it's not on the same level in terms of memorability or how much I personally like it as some of those other books. But it is still a really excellent book for sure. Great starting point for the Cosmere also if you want something short. Then we have the Mistborn trilogy, starting off with Mistborn, otherwise known as the Final Empire, which is also going to go into A tier. In fact, I'm going to put all of Era 1 into A tier. I really like Mistborn Era 1. It is my first thing that I ever read in the Cosmere. I plan to reread it sometime this year, probably in a couple months or so. And I really like it. If I were to order these, which I am going to do, I'd probably put Well of Ascension first. I'll move Emperor's Soul down also. That's probably about the order that I'd have them. Well of Ascension first, then Mistborn, then Hero of Ages. But I like all of them a lot, and I know that it seems to be that Well of Ascension, being my favorite of the bunch, is not a very popular opinion, but oh well. But yeah, great trilogy, great world building, great character work. Vin and Sazed are two of my favorite Cosmere characters, and I love the twists and turns in this trilogy, and the ending of it is amazing, and all that stuff. It's just a great trilogy overall. Highly recommend reading it, and also a good starting point if you want a trilogy rather than a novella. Then we have the two Mistborn Era 1 short stories. First up, we have The 11th Metal, which This one I'm gonna put C tier. It's okay. Not that amazing or memorable, but I did enjoy reading it. Don't have much to say about it. It's just fine. Then we have Mistborn Secret History, which I really like. This is gonna go also into A tier. I'd say bottom of A tier at the moment. Really like Secret History. It really kind of blew my mind a little bit when I read it, and really was nice to have something like that that kind of revisits Mistborn Era 1 in an interesting way. And, it was just fun to read. I really enjoyed it a lot. Can't really talk about it without spoiling it, though, so I'm going to leave it at that. Then we have Era 2, at least the first three books of Era 2. First, we have The Alloy of Law, which, unlike Era 1, these are all going to be in different spots. Alloy of Law, I'm going to put C tier. Alloy of Law, I would probably say, is my least favorite Cosmere book, personally. And again, kind of similar to Elantris, it's not bad or anything. It's just my least favorite. I just don't find it as memorable. I don't find the plot as memorable. It is a great intro to Era 2 and all that stuff, but it is just not one of my favorites or anything. Shadows of Self, on the other hand, is one of my favorites. Shadows of Self is going to go into S tier. Currently, until I reread the original trilogy, this is probably my favorite of the Mistborn books at the moment. I really love Shadows of Self. It is amazing. I love the character dynamics in it. I loved the plot. There's a lot of really cool plot twists, or not a lot, but a couple cool plot twists. Great action scenes. Very memorable to me, and I love the ending of the book as well, which is very sad, but so well done. And I loved it. Then Bands of Mourning is going to go right between these two in B tier. I could be persuaded to put it into A tier, but I think I'm going to stick with B tier. Bands of Mourning is a solid book. I, again, don't find it quite as memorable, and it is one of the lesser Cosmere books for me, but it's still a really solid one. I still enjoyed it a lot. A lot of good character stuff in it, once again. Really enjoyed Wax and Steris's relationship in this book, and even though at the time I didn't think the ending of the book was amazing, looking back, I find it actually rather memorable. There's a lot of cool stuff at the end of this book that I really liked, so that goes in B tier. Then we have the Mistborn Era 2 short story, which is Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania. This is gonna go somewhere. I'm gonna put this. I'm tempted to put this in A tier. Whatever, I'll put it in A tier. Um, Allomancer Jack is just a fun story to me. It reminds me in a lot of ways as something like Terry Pratchett, which is funny because Terry Pratchett, Brandon has mentioned before as being one of his favorite authors, if not his favorite author. And I feel like this was him kind of trying to be Terry Pratchett in some ways. And I really enjoyed that about it. It was a very humorous story and a lot of fun to read. Really liked it a lot. And then Warbreaker. This used to be my favorite of Sanderson's standalones. That is no longer the case, but it is still great, and I'm going to put it in S tier above Shadows of Self. Yeah, Warbreaker is great. Love the characters in it, especially Lightsong. Lightsong is one of my favorite Cosmere characters. Great world building, really interesting themes, all kinds of great stuff. Very, very good book. And also, once again, a solid starting point, I would say. In fact, probably most of Sanderson's standalones are good starting points for the Cosmere, but yeah, I really like Warbreaker. It's a very, very good one. And then Six of a Dusk and Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. Very long title. Both of these are kind of similar for me. Although I think I like Shadows for Silence a little more. So I'm going to put that one in C tier, Six of the Dusk, top of D tier. Neither of these to me were terribly memorable, but I did enjoy them. Shadows for Silence was really cool because it was tonally very different for Sanderson, which I enjoyed. And then Six of the Dust just had some cool world building in it. I think it's set kind of a little more later in the timeline of the Cosmere, which was a lot of fun. Then we have Stormlight Archive and the two secret projects that I have read. So first we have The Way of Kings. You're about to see a lot of very high placements here, and Bands of Mourning is, I just realized, going to be quite lonely. Way of Kings is going into S tier, top of S tier right now. Love The Way of Kings. Great beginning to the series, and just a fantastic book. It really intimidated me going in because it's such a big book, and all of the Stormlight books are super big. They're over 1,000 pages each. But Way of Kings was really special for me. It was a very special book to me, just for how it impacted me and how much I loved it. So definitely one of my favorites. Words of Radiance, also going into S tier. At the bottom of S tier, I would say. No, I'll put it next to Way of Kings. However, it is my least favorite of the Stormlight books, I would say. But Words of Radiance is amazing. Also, and pretty much everything I have to say good about Way of Kings is also present in Words of Radiance. I just find it a little bit less memorable than the other books, personally. But it is a great book, great progression from the way things were at the end of Way of Kings, and love the end of the book. Also, that the end of this book has some very impactful moments, which is really the case for all the Stormlight books. And then Edge Dancer, getting into the Stormlight novellas now. This one is going to go into A tier, I think. I have no idea where. I'll put it there, I think. I really liked Edge Dancer. Edge Dancer was fun for me because it focuses a lot on the character of Lift, who up until this point was a very minor character who pretty much only ever appeared in the interludes of the Stormlight books. And she gets this whole novella dedicated to her, and I really liked her in this novella. Prior to it, I didn't really care for her, but this novella really made me like Lift, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Oathbringer. This is my favorite Cosmere book. So, once again, we have a Stormlight book right into S tier. Top of S tier. This is my favorite Cosmere book. Not only that, but it is one of, if not my favorite book I have ever read in my life. Love Oathbringer so much. Love Dalinar's story in it. Love his arc. Love learning about his backstory. The ending of this book, the climax of this book, otherwise known as the Sanderlanche, which us Sanderson fans like to call the endings of Sanderson's books, where kind of all the plot lines come together, all the mysteries are, all the answers come out, all that stuff. The Sanderlanche of this book is like 300 pages long compared to the other Stormlight books, in which they're like 150 pages, maybe 200. But this one's like 300. It's a lot that gets thrown at you at the end of this book, but it was amazing. So many impactful moments, and just love Oathbringer a whole lot. Then we have Dawn Shard. This one, do I like this one more than Edge Dancer? I don't know. I think I do. I think I might like this more than Edge Dancer. They go about the same level for me, but I'd say I like Dawn Shard just a smidge more. It was really cool. Lots of cool character stuff. I enjoyed the characters this focused on. Felt a little different for the Cosmere, which I enjoyed, or at least for Stormlight. Focused on some lesser known or less important characters that had appeared in the other books, but not prominently, and did some cool world building stuff that I really enjoyed. And then Rhythm of War, which is one of the most recent ones that I read. That is, once again, going into S tier. This is going to go between Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. I really liked Rhythm of War. It does fall a little bit for me just because I was not as much into the flashbacks. This probably has the weakest flashbacks of the series, in my opinion. And also some of the stuff focused on Venli, who was kind of one of the main characters of this book, really. Sometimes that character's POV chapters didn't quite grab me, but otherwise I really liked this book. And this has, alongside Oathbringer, probably my favorite Sanderlanche of the Stormlight series. And I know having Words of Radiance as my least favorite is an incredibly unpopular opinion, but that's how it is. So if you want my ranking of Stormlight, there it is for you, right there at the top. Tress of the Emerald Sea, Secret Project 1. Finally, gonna let Bands of Mourning not be so lonely. I'm gonna put this above Bands of Mourning though. Tress is such a fun book. The only reason I don't have it in A tier is because a lot of these A tier books to me really kind of hit me a little deeper. Like the Mistborn trilogy really resonated me with a lot of ways, and stuff like that. Emperor's Soul as well. Tress for me was equally as fun, if not more so, but it just didn't have that same emotional connection with me. But I did really love Tress. It was such a fun book. Very different in tone, very unique in tone, much more whimsical and fun and humorous. Really, just such a fun, entertaining book to read. Out of all of the Cosmere books, this is probably, at least in terms of the novels, I would say Allomancer Jack kind of is similar in terms of fun factor for me. But Tress is probably the most pure, fun Cosmere book, in my opinion. Just a lot of fun. That brings us to Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Secret Project 3. Like I said earlier, Warbreaker is no longer my favorite standalone. That place has been taken by Yumi. This is gonna go right there. Could I put it higher? You know what? This may be recency bias because I just read this book, but I'm gonna put this right here, right in the middle of Stormlight. I loved Yumi and the Nightmare Painter so much. Such an incredible book. I loved the character work. I loved the world building. I loved the mysteries and the revelations about them. Was brilliant, and it was just such an enjoyable read. I could not put it down. I read it in like 2.5 days, and I could hardly put it down. I would have to put it down because I have other obligations and things like that, but I did not want to, and I spent every moment that I could reading this book during those couple of days because I just had to know what was coming next, and it was just amazing. Definitely one of my favorite Cosmere books for sure. Did not expect it to be this high when I first read it, but it is just amazing to me. Absolutely loved it. So, that pretty much brings us to the end. So, in S tier, right here, Oathbringer, Way of Kings, Yumi, Rhythm of War, Words of Radiance, Warbreaker, and Shadows of Self. A tier, Well of Ascension, Mistborn, Dawn Shard, Edge Dancer, The Hero of Ages, Emperor's Soul, Secret History, and Allomancer Jack. B tier, you can tell I like Sanderson because these top two tiers are full. B tier, Tress and Bands of Mourning. C tier, Elantris, Alloy of Law, 11th Metal, and Shadows for Silence. And D tier, Six of the Dusk and The Hope of Elantris, with 3 more that I still need to read. I do plan to read both Lost Metal and Sunlit Man this year. I don't know when exactly. Sunlit Man I'll probably try to get at some point. I know it's out in hardcover now, but I have not gotten my hands on it as of the time of recording this video. Hope to get that soon. And then Lost Metal I will be getting when it comes out in mass market paperback in October because I want it to match all my other Era 2 books. And getting it in hardcover would not do that. So I will be getting that probably in October. And White Sand I would love to read, but I'm not much of a graphic novel person. Maybe I'll read it in graphic novel, but I will most likely be waiting for the prose version to come out here in a couple of years. So there's where those ones are going to be for me. So here we have the full list, all the books right here. And as I said, you can tell I'm a big Sanderson fan considering how full the top tiers are and how empty the bottom tiers are. But yeah, love Sanderson's work, so that's not very surprising. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I just thought it would be fun to do this, to talk about all these books, and I've been wanting to do a ranking of the Cosmere for some time. I was going to wait until later so I could include Lost Metal and Sunlit Man, but I figure I can do it now, and then maybe once Secret Project 5 comes out, which I'm very excited for, which just got announced recently, chances are I will probably do another one of these rankings after that book releases, so then I'll have at least a few more to talk about. And by then I'll also have reread Mistborn, the Mistborn trilogy. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my rankings and what some of your favorites or least favorite Cosmere books are. Anything like that. I love talking about these books, so I would love to hear all of your thoughts. So that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.